The stage lights blinded him as he stepped forward, barefoot on the cold floor. His clothes were worn, too big for his skinny frame. Whispers rippled through the audience. Someone laughed. A few phones came up, already recording, not expecting a miracle, but a moment to mock. One of the judges leaned toward her mic, muttering, "This is cruel. Why is he even here?" He said nothing. Just nodded when the host asked if he was ready. The music began, Hotel California. An old song. Not what anyone expected from a boy who looked no older than 13. Then he opened his mouth. The room changed. Every word he sang came not just from his lungs, but from his bones, like he had lived the story of every lyric. His voice had a rasp, a haunting echo that carried pain, and hope, and something ancient. Something that didn't belong to a child. The camera panned to the judges. One had her hand over her heart. Another wiped away a tear. The crowd? Silent. Breath held. Moved. He reached the final line. "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave." And then, stillness. Then, a roar. The audience exploded into applause, people standing on chairs, cheering. The judge who had doubted him the most was sobbing. She stood, trembling, and slammed the golden buzzer with both hands. Gold confetti rained down as the boy looked up, stunned. He had walked on stage with nothing. But he left it with everything. Not just a golden buzzer. But a voice that awakened the world. Would you like thumbnail prompts, video description, or 10 YouTube title picks next? He clutched the microphone with trembling hands. The lights were too bright, the audience too large. But he had one thing no one could take away, his voice. The opening notes of Hotel California began to play. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and started to sing. His voice, gentle, aching, cut through the air like silk. For a moment, it felt like time slowed. Then, disaster. A loud pop. The mic died. The music stopped. Gasps spread through the room. Stagehands scrambled off stage, panic on their faces. He froze. The auditorium was silent. Until, he opened his mouth again. This time, no mic. No instruments. Just him. His bare voice echoed across the walls. Cracked in places. Powerful in others. Pure. Honest. He kept going, stepping forward, projecting with everything he had. He didn't sing for the judges. He didn't sing for the cameras. He sang like he was back home, alone in the streets, singing to forget the hunger. Halfway through the chorus, people rose to their feet. First a few. Then dozens. Then the whole room. A tidal wave of applause surged even before he finished. But he kept singing. He ended with his eyes closed. Silence. Then a voice rang out from the judge's table, thick with emotion. That was the most powerful thing I've ever seen. Another judge stood, eyes glistening. Golden buzzer. Now. She didn't wait for a vote. She slammed her hand down. Gold confetti burst from the ceiling. The boy stared up in disbelief, mouth open, tears streaming. He came to sing a song. But he left having sung straight into history. He stood alone on stage, small and quiet, lost in the vastness of the spotlight. A judge leaned forward, curious. "What will you be singing today, sweetheart?" He raised the mic, voice barely above a whisper. "For my papa, in heaven." 6 words. That was all it took to silence the room. Then the first chords of Hotel California filled the air. But when he began to sing, it wasn't a performance, it was a farewell. His voice trembled at first, gentle and uncertain, like he was afraid to let go. But then it grew. Stronger. Deeper. Each note carried grief, love, and a story too heavy for a boy his age. By the second verse, the audience was completely still. No coughs. No whispers. Just the sound of a soul pouring itself out through a song. One judge, famously cold and unmoved, covered her mouth with trembling hands. Her eyes welled. She tried to hide it, but the tears fell anyway. The boy reached the final line, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave," and closed his eyes, holding the last word like it was his father's name. Silence. And then, applause like thunder. Roars. Cheers. People on their feet, hands in the air. The judge who had never cried stood slowly, walked over to the panel, and slammed the golden buzzer with all her strength. Gold rained from the ceiling. He looked up, his lip trembling, and whispered, "Thank you, Papa." In that moment, the world didn't just see a boy. They saw a son who turned his pain into something unforgettable. He stepped onto the stage with nervous energy, clutching the microphone like a lifeline. The judges glanced at one another as he introduced himself, his thick Filipino accent coloring every word. In the crowd, a few smirks. One camera caught a whisper, "This is going to be rough." He bowed politely and said, "I sing Hotel California, thank you." The music started. Then, he sang. And everything changed. The accent vanished. What remained was a voice full of velvet and grit. Pure. Soulful. Ageless. As if he weren't just covering Hotel California, he was rewriting it with his own story, his own pain and longing. Every lyric landed like a truth he had lived. On a dark desert highway, was no longer a metaphor. It was memory. The judges froze. One leaned forward, mouthing, "That's not possible." By the chorus, the audience was leaning in, many with hands on their hearts. The boy's voice soared, raw yet refined, drenched in emotion. He wasn't just performing. He was resurrecting something sacred. When the final line fell, "But you can never leave," the last note lingered in the air like smoke from a candle just blown out. Silence. Then chaos. The room erupted with applause, a wave of cheers and standing ovations. Some screamed. Others wept. The judge who had doubted him most wiped her face, breath caught in her chest. Then, without a word, she stood, tears flowing freely, and slammed the golden buzzer. Confetti rained down like a blessing. He looked up, wide-eyed and stunned. The boy with the accent. He was now the boy who silenced a room, and sang his way into legend. He wasn't on the list. No badge. No registration. Just a teenage boy with a second-hand guitar strapped to his back and hope in his eyes. "Sorry, kid. No audition today," the security guard said, arms crossed. "But, please," the boy whispered. "I came from far. I just want a chance." Behind the glass doors, hundreds of polished contestants waited their turn. And outside, this barefoot boy who didn't even make it past the gate. But fate was watching. One of the judges, exhausted from the long day, stepped out for a break and heard something. A voice. Raw. Soulful. Singing Hotel California to a small crowd outside the venue. She froze. Then turned to a producer and said, "That boy. Let him sing. Now." Minutes later, he stood on the main stage, blinking under the bright lights. Nervous. Awkward. Silent. The judges encouraged him gently. "What will you be singing?" "Hotel California," he replied, his voice barely a whisper. Then, magic. The same song, now echoing through the auditorium, filled with emotion, clarity, and heartbreaking beauty. His voice was imperfect, but perfect in its imperfection. Like he had lived every verse. The room slowly leaned forward. One by one, audience members rose. By the final line, they were all standing. The judge who had found him outside stood, eyes blazing, tears streaking down her face. She didn't wait for approval. She slammed the golden buzzer with a single shout. "World, meet your star." The boy dropped his guitar, covering his face as gold confetti rained down. He came as a nobody. But he left as a miracle no one would forget.